Welcome to everybody. My name is Xavier, and I am the co-founder of Namespace that regroups several domain registrars and domain-related cybersecurity services. Among the brands and services we operate, we have, for example, EuroDNS.com and eBrand.com. The full list of brands and services that we operate are visible under www.namespace.com. Let's move to today's topic. We are addressing DNS and domain names as cornerstones of your cybersecurity and why they are so essential to secure your enterprise and brand image. DNS servers allow you to link your domain name to the IP addresses of your servers, as for example, your web server, your e-commerce, or your mail server. When you send a link, when you get a link, when you give your email to somebody, when you receive an email address, there is always a domain name involved, meaning also a DNS lookup involved. We can say that everything uses DNS, and that DNS is critical to your online and communications operations. So, because domain names are so important, they are constantly targeted by cybercriminals. One of the major threats is domain hijacking, or the takeover of the configuration of a domain name. Imagine somebody accessing your registrar account and simply transferring the domain name out, or changing the ownership of the domain name. Even without hijacking the domain, simply changing IP addresses, configuration of the services linked to that domain has catastrophic consequences. That's why it's very important to ensure that your domain name stays active and under your control. To ensure that, you should select a strong registrar, a fully accredited, ICANN accredited registrar, and if possible, a registrar that has additional certification, like for example an ISO certification. That registrar should offer you security features like enforced password policy and strong multi-factor authentication. A nice extra is the management of specific rights, meaning different departments or persons in your company can only access the specific domain configuration that they are in charge with. A strong additional feature at registrar level is to activate an IP address limitation, allowing you to limit access to your registrar account to certain IP addresses out of your network, hence shutting out all the others. Last but not least, activate on all domain names the feature called registry logs. This feature prohibits domain transfers out and ownership changes on your domain names without the registrar asking you to confirm it. There are not many registrars in this world that offer all this range of security features, so choose your registrar wisely. The second threat is DNS disruption. DNS servers do the link between your domain name and the IP addresses. When these servers are under attack or simply fail to respond, then you are confronted to a major outage of all your web services and all your email communications. So the DNS infrastructure that your registrar uses or that larger enterprises run themselves should be very redundant and powerful. To achieve that, DNS servers must be, one hand, multiple and redundant, based on anycast technologies that allows this redundancy. They should be distributed in various networks and spread geographically, even throughout the world, in order to reduce the latency. Also, they should support IPv4 and IPv6, and the entire DNS infrastructure should be monitored by a strong external monitoring service. The third threat comes from the fact that malicious actors will target your brand with lookalike domains to build attacks on your brand. These attacks can be of various types. They can, for instance, target your customers with phishing attacks, or the purpose could be to introduce malware or ransomware in your company by making employees believe that a certain link they got in an email is legit. Another type of attack is called spear phishing, where targeted persons are impersonating, and there are unfortunately even more of attacks. But what all these attacks have in common is that actually they use lookalike domains or subdomains in order to mislead its targets. One of the solutions to this threat is a defensive registration strategy. Register all domain names in the most used domain extensions, and especially in the country extensions in which you are active. Also register the most obvious typo domain names. But defensive registration has its limitations, as you will never be able to cover all variations. So we strongly recommend that you also subscribe to a monitoring service that detects any new identical or similar domain names. For example, the X-ray radar service by eBrand detects in real time whenever your brand or a type of your brand shows up in new domain registrations. The service even detects your brand in subdomains thanks to real-time SSL certification, monitoring, and the passive DNS monitoring. This sounds very technically, but the result is quite easy to understand and efficient. The service detects and helps to filter potential attacks on your brand names before they actually occur. Last but not least, we come to insider threats and human errors. Any modification on the registrar platform can have security consequences on your domain name and DNS zones. It is critical to be able to validate, track, or cancel any changes made to your account. To avoid such threats or errors, you should have access to logs showing who did what and when in your account. On important domain names, you should be able to activate a 4 or 6 eyes change validation process, meaning any configuration change should be validated by at least another person before it goes into production. Very few registrar systems offer such features. Another important feature is change versioning. That allows you to roll back to previous configurations when necessary. Also, an external monitoring service that tracks changes that occurs to your domain names is recommended. Here are some conclusions and recommendations. All these threats and examples show that the domain name is often at the center of most attacks and major outages. It is very important to seriously address the topic and to apply proper risk management to your entire domain portfolio. You should identify the critical domain names in your portfolio and add an extra layer of security to them. Ensure that your DNS infrastructure is redundant, or the one of your registrar, that it is secure and delivers high performance availability. And finally, get guidance from industry specialists. At EuroDNS and at eBrand, we have now 20 years of experience, and our focus has always been in domain security and securing brands online. Thank you for listening, and do not hesitate to get in touch with us.